PSA is back open for discounted bulk submissions. Does that spell disaster for the hobby? I'll ask these guys today in Cards on the Table. Hey everyone, sports card investors, collectors, welcome back to Cards on the Table, our fast-paced talk show where we talk about the hottest topics in the hobby and we answer questions from you down in the comments. I'm back as always here with Doug. Doug, convenient that Jeff is out the week after your Wildcats beat Florida.
It's not exactly convenience. I don't think Jeff's been able to get out of bed for the past 2 weeks. It's a total changing of the guard in the SEC East. Kentucky's won 2 in a row, 3 of the last 5. Florida's old news. Kentucky is now taking that step further in the East.
Yeah, we haven't seen him for a while, so he can't defend his Gators. And Hammer, welcome back. Mr. Pujols, 697 and counting. Very exciting stuff. Good to have you here.
Always good to be back, and yes, I'm really hoping that he can be able to get to that 700 before the end of the season, whether it's in the regular season or the postseason.
You and me, buddy. You and me both. All right, let's get into our first topic today. PSA announcing that they are back open for bulk submissions, $22 a card, max declared value $199, estimated turnaround time 4 months. So my question for you guys, 2 things. Will this overwhelm PSA again? Will we see them turning around at 4 months, or will it have a big backlog? And 2, is this going to contribute more than ever back to that junk slab era? Doug, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, so that's a lot to answer, but let me kind of start with, is it too much for PSA to handle? And I think the answer is probably right now, no, it's not too much to handle, and that's why they've lowered their prices and brought this submission level back. You know, they've got PSA East now in New Jersey opening up, and they just, Nat Turner just said a couple of days ago, they've leased another 100,000 square feet in California. Right. They're expanding rapidly, and they need that influx of submissions to come in just to keep things running. And they do need to keep some type of a backlog. It's just smart business to have some type of a backlog, so if submissions slow down during some off seasons, that they still have work to do, right? So I do think they want to create a backlog. Right now, they're doing everything on time or ahead of time, so I don't think it's too much right now. But your other question is probably the more important one. How will this contribute to the junk slab era? $22 submissions, that could start people, subbing base cards again, which we kind of got away from. But if that picks back up and people start subbing base cards or, 10th year inserts or whatever the case may be, that's not great for the overall card economy because slabs are just going to be everywhere. And there's some more that plays into that, but I want to hear, Hammer and I have talked about this a little bit, so I want to hear what he has to say about it before I, totally
definitely
go off the rails.
This is a question of economies of scale. Yeah. I think we remember that from our college courses in business and econ, and they've scaled, and now, like you said, they need to bring in the volume to justify the spend that they've made. So Hammer, what do you think about those 2 topics?
So kind of what you were saying, I do think that you're going to maybe start to see some backlog issues again, because I do think that people are going to be sending in those base rookies, sending in some of the cards that were maybe being criticized at times in the past. And, it's been interesting. The popularity and the media attention that's been surrounding grading, I think, has a whole new crowd of people that are anxious to send in cards. And it seems like now this is getting to a point where it's becoming as affordable as it's really ever been. I mean, we're not getting to the point where it's $8 subs anymore, but people are kind of, this might be the time where I can start letting some of these base rookies go. But however, I do feel like, the discrepancy between the price discrepancy between a 9 and 10 is really going to make it break a lot of people. Yeah. So I am curious to see, the backlog could get back, could heavily be flooded because of this, but then people could quickly learn their lesson as they get their subs back and realize, wow, these ended up getting 9s and not 10s, and now this has just totally messed things up from a flipper's perspective. That's currently where I'm at. It seems like things are starting to get back to normal in that sense, so I could totally see people trying to take advantage of this price point and turnaround time.
Yeah, I missed the window in July because I was having a baby. My wife was having a baby, and I was just busy. I had cards I wanted to send in. I've got kind of some of those somewhat rare parallels of key NBA players that I've been waiting and wanting to send in. That's the kind of card maybe that I'll look and hopefully keep some of them for myself. I like to sell the 10s personally and keep the 9s when I get them. But I want to know also, this kind of comes after we heard about, we hear new grading companies all the time, we've talked about it. Rare Edition is one that kind of stood out that we saw their slab in hand recently and we liked. But a couple others announced recently. Tag Grading, which did the series on Sports Card Live. Jeremy Lee just joined the company. They just announced they're open for business a few weeks ago, and then we saw the Arena Club, the big Derek Jeter backed venture coming out, and obviously we've talked about them. Others, that's they're trying to do something different. A lot of reactions and emotions around it. What do you guys think? Two questions around that. One, what do you think of computer vision grading, automated grading compared to the human aspect, which is subjective and volatile? And also, can these grading companies do anything to compete with the big four, including PSA? Doug, what do you think?
Well, I think when you talk about computer grading, AI grading, I think what you're hoping for is both transparency and consistency, right? Take away that element of human error, and ideally it's more consistent. And I've seen Tag in action. That's one of the companies you mentioned. I saw them at the Burbank Card Show, and they're very transparent, as transparent of any company I've ever seen. You get to see on a scale of 1,000. Now the grades are traditional, 8.5, 9, 9.5, 10, but you also get to see on a scale of 1,000 where your card ranks. And then you have really high resolution zoomed in scans where they show you every imperfection of the card. Does that lead to too strict of grading? Then, are you submitting cards to them and just getting crushed on grading because they see everything? There's a lot to talk about there, but it's too many variables for me to make a judgment right now.
Yeah, Hammer, what do you think?
Yeah, this isn't the first time we've had new graders come into play, and obviously, as they continue to ramp up and try to make a name for themselves, it's generally going to come down to market value. I mean, it's going to be very hard to tell flippers or people that are constantly sending in to PSA that it's worth going to Tag or Arena or one of these other ones because of X, Y, and Z. And in terms of the computer aspect of things and getting the human element, I think it's only a matter of time until we get there. Yeah. So, I'll be curious to see if PSA is going to in some way, try to go that route as well to legitimize themselves in a way where, okay, we're now going to be doing similar things that they're doing, so there's not much of a separation. We already have, PSA 10s are going for more than essentially any other slab. So, and we've already seen, people trying to use SGC to flip ultra modern, hearing how that hasn't worked out. So in the past, it's been hard to knock off such a dog like PSA. But hey, as more cards are getting made, more people are coming in, I think there's going to be different levels of grading where, hey, there might be a base card of LeBron James that I want to have in one of these particular
I've been talking
companies.
about computer vision grading for 4 years. We were talking about it on Discord right when Jeff opened it. This is the future. In my opinion, this is how it needs to happen. In terms of authentication, I think maybe you still need a human for certain things, right? But the computer vision is consistent, and that's what these companies are promising. That it will be consistent within like a 3% margin every time. If you sent the card over and over and over again, it's huge like that. To me, that's computer vision. Now I want to see the execution. We've had some others who have tried to do this and have had lots of struggles for various reasons. I want to see execution. The slabs look beautiful. They knocked that part out. They've got the marketing. Arena Club's got Jeter behind him. So that, there's different factors that can contribute to being a contender and a challenger. I want to see how it all plays out, but I am excited and encouraged by more people trying to shake things up. So
competition's always good.
It is good stuff. Let's get into, and we'll kind of get back to our second topic here, the data dive that I did this last weekend. And I talked about, what I did was I went out to Instagram, just on my personal Instagram, and I polled everybody. I got a few thousand people who I interact with. And
humble brag.
It's peanuts compared to our SCI channel. Shout out our content team. But they don't let me manage that probably for good reason. But I just asked, really, what players do you all think we're going to boom and bust this season for the quarterback, wide receiver, and running back positions? And I got the feedback from everybody. And that's how I set the episode up. Not that I was saying these guys are going to do these things. More like you guys said, that they're going to do these things. So I talked about some of the people. They were high on Trevor Lawrence. They were high on Jalen Hurts. No surprises probably on those. Many people were fading Tom Brady, probably seeing the kind of weird pictures of him and the personal things he's been saying he's having. Rodgers was another guy losing Devontae Adams that people were fading. Stafford, sorry, Hammer, and he really didn't look too good game one. Let's hope that changes. And then I'll say somewhat foolishly fading on Mahomes. And I think that's more maybe the price, or they're just seeing competition. But I said Mahomes isn't going anywhere. That guy's a gamer, and he showed it in week one, at least so far. So I want to know what you guys think. Who are you high on? We're 1 week in now. This is a little bit of cheating. We got a preview now. Hammer, who are you high on this season, and do you think it will correlate to their card prices being reflected with the changes?
Yeah, so when it comes to pop count and current prices, I think, a lot of people are sleeping on Lamar Jackson, compared to guys like Mac Jones or Tua, where you're seeing higher sales volume, you're seeing some of the PSA 10s going higher, than Lamar Jackson's cards. And this is a guy who week one looked like he really bulked up. He looks like he really put on a lot of weight in the offseason. And to be honest with you, he was throwing the pill all over the yard. He had 3 touchdowns, really didn't use his legs much.
Right.
But this is a former MVP, and it seems like a lot of people in the hobby have kind of just moved off of him or just focused on Josh Allen in that 2018 class. So he's a guy I'm going to continue to watch, because if he gets them to the playoffs, I think you're going to start to see more buzz around Lamar Jackson. We know he can run the ball, but it's pretty encouraging. Yes, I know it's the Jets, but it's encouraging to see him throwing the ball as the way he was. And I like Bateman at the wide receiver position. I think he's going to be a big asset.
Duvernay had a good game too.
Yeah,
Both of those guys did.
And a guy that I'm honestly I'm really looking into these next 3 games is Tua. It's going to be a big benchmark to see where his hobby reputation is going to go moving forward. For those of you who don't know what his schedule is looking like, he plays in Baltimore against the Ravens next week. Then after that, he's at home against the Bills, and then he's playing the AFC champs and the Bengals in Cincinnati. So this is why we pay you. This is why we bring these guys in. This is why card people are buying your cards. This is where you need to show up. So if he can get out of there 2-1, 3-0, and can perform well, doesn't turn over the ball, I think it's going to be great for his market. If things don't go well, if he's turning over the ball, they don't look good, they look flat, I could see maybe people being like, the writing's on the wall here, because I think the game after this, they play the Jets. So things will come back down to reality in terms of the competition he's facing. But that's where I'm looking in terms of the 2 players in the hobby following week 1.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, and that's why I talked about Tua was a guy I wasn't high on. Independent of who he is as a player, I looked at their schedule for Miami early and was like, this kind of makes me nervous. I don't know. They're going to have to be 4-0 in order for people to kind of start getting some momentum behind him. Otherwise, I think we could see his prices going down. Doug, what do you think?
I don't really have strong opinions. I know that's not really my role here is to say pass, but I don't have a lot of strong opinions on who I think is necessarily going to be boom or bust. But what I would say is just be wary of knee-jerk reactions after week 1, right? It would be really easy to see what happened to Joe Burrow and see his offensive line and think Burrow's going to have a terrible year. Yeah. Let's give it a little bit more time. He didn't have a preseason. Let's watch that play out. Matthew Stafford just won a Super Bowl, but didn't look amazing in his first game against Super Bowl favorites, the Bills. Yeah. Let's let that play out a little bit as well. So I think there's some situations where we can look at individuals. Mac Jones, not great. Things of that nature. I was always looking at Tua before this season started. Now that you told me that murderer's row that he's got coming up of teams that he's playing against, I'm a little hesitant on that. But I think we can firmly say if we're looking for a bust, how about all NFL kickers? Can we just go that route?
That's what I said. That's exactly what I said.
Is that the worst week of NFL kicking that we've ever seen?
It's bad. There's all the memes of NFL kickers lining up for game-winning field goals, and it's the Madden with the thing skewed all the way over here. I said an Instagram post that after the first 2 missed field goals, next year's NFL draft is going to see 6 kickers taken in the first round, because this is
a lot of guys already lost their job already. Yeah.
You can miss the playoffs by 1 game, or even by a tie. And these guys are, talk about pressure. I don't envy them, but they got one job to do.
It certainly was Shank City week 1.
I'll tell you another player not to get excited about is Carson Wentz, because he's playing my Lions this coming weekend. Oof. They're going to shut him down.
Terrifying.
That's it. Sell your Wentz cards now before that. All right, that's our Data Dive recap for the week. Let's now go and cut to a word from our sponsors. Let's get back into now our mailbag questions from this week. These are the questions that you give us down in the comments, and then we pick the ones that we think we can address and speak intelligently to. So the first topic that we have for this week, still related to the grading stuff. With PSA bulk back open, how do you navigate those submissions safely, thoughtfully? Which cards should you be sending in? The $22 price point is higher than it was before. And the declared value limits it to $199, or you're going to get upcharged, right? So remember, in some cases, PSA 9s can sell for less than raw. How do we handle this? Hammer, what are your thoughts around this?
Yeah, so when it comes to this particular topic, I think it's really important, like we talked about prior, to kind of stay away from ultra-modern base cards in particular. Kind of where I'm at is anything prior to 2002, I'm okay with basically submitting and hoping that it gets an 8, because I just know that print runs are relatively low, and the cards in particular that I'm looking at are, variations where they're not just like a base card. So basically looking at, is this a card that has to gem? I don't, and is it, if it's not ultra modern, it's not necessarily the vocal point that it needs to be a 10. So that's kind of where I'm at, trying to focus less on, the timeliness of getting a player that's currently hot and hoping that I get that 10 and that it comes back in a timely manner, and more of dealing with lower pop cards, maybe goats where I know it's okay to let it sit for a while, and I'm not really worrying about a flipping aspect. But yeah, this definitely changes things on sort of where it used to be on how you would pick certain cards to submit.
Yeah, makes sense. Doug, what about you?
Yeah, so I think you have to be really careful with this, right? This should be a word of caution to anybody who's thinking about sending half their collection off to PSA at $22. So first of all, think of how much it cost you to acquire that card. You probably either bought it raw or bought a pack or bought into a break. There's going to be a cost associated with acquiring that card. Then add $22 to it. Then what level of card fits within $199 that's worth grading? You almost have to make sure that card is going to be between $150 and $200 in a PSA 10, and you got to be pretty sure it gems. Yeah. Because if you send a card that's $150 in a PSA 10, what is it if it gets a PSA 9? $50?
Yep.
How much are you into that card for at that point? $22 plus however you acquired it? You might be breaking even on 9s.
It's a math question, right?
You really have to pay more attention. So this is great for PC stuff. If you want to slab something that you want to keep, awesome.
Exactly.
This is perfect for that. But if this is for investing, you have to be really, really careful, and you have to have a pretty sharp eye for grading too. This is no slam dunk.
I think it's got to be that type of card that's in like the $50 range raw.
Yeah.
Whereas a 10, maybe it's going to go 150, 200.
And think
As
about
a 9,
this.
Maybe it's not.
120 days to come back. What happens to that card's
Bingo.
value in that many months?
Bingo.
Right?
You have to think about that. The type of cards that I think we'd be sending in is stuff for next baseball season or a big UFC fight that's scheduled for a ways out, that type of stuff. Now, worth noting, this is the bulk level, $22, $200 limit. The value level is $30, $500, $499 limit. So if you do send in at 22 and you get a 10 and you get an upcharge, timing is still going to be roughly the same. So you're going to get like an $8 upcharge with no real drawback other than maybe you delayed your card getting back to you by a month or something. So, and that way it's not, a huge downside. I'm encouraged because I know Nat has talked about how he wants set collectors to be able to go after their PSA set registry type stuff. The more that value comes down, the more they'll be able to do that realistically. But I am worried about that just flood of overall things. Just be mindful and know what to expect. These pop counts are going to be through the roof on these new players.
Yeah, it really will. And I think a lot of people are going to get burned on some of these. So just be smart, do the math,
And if you want to do grading, one thing I like is to send it to our grading partners at Got Baseball Cards.
Love it.
Go to our website and click on grading in the main menu bar. And the reason I like that is because they will also look at your cards for you for no charge and give you a second set of eyes and just say, hey, we saw this thing, this scratch, maybe you didn't see it, and they'll send it back to you while the rest of your stuff goes off to grading. So it's another kind of nice checks and balance to that. All right, that does it for the first topic. Second question in our mailbag. This is one I'm really excited about. I know you guys are passionate about this. I've been living a little bit vicariously through each of you. Spider-Man Metal Universe came out recently, and the people who are into this, they really like it. And I'm telling you guys, this is not a fad where people are like, oh, they're pumping this. The Marvel fans love this product, and why would you not? So it came out. A lot of people are saying, everybody's saying this is like the product of the year. Tell me a little bit more about this product, Hammer, and what the big hits are. And then, Doug, I know you've ripped some of it as a breaker, so I want to hear all about that.
Yeah, so obviously the PMGs are the big chase. You got Palladiums, Platinum Portraits is a really short print one. And to be honest, I was really surprised to see that they had a retail release this year. And I was getting ready to go on Target's website and, sold out immediately. Yeah. Yep. So it's amazing to see how many people are gravitating toward this set. But I do have some concerns, but I'd like to hear your opinion as somebody who's been breaking this stuff and has pulled some really fire cards firsthand.
Yeah. So in my opinion, this is a slam dunk best release of the year, period. I think it's the best product that's come out all year, but you have to care about Marvel.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff really appeals a lot more to collectors than it does investors. Now, there's a lot of investable cards in this set. There's a lot of ways to make money if that's what you're really looking to do. But what makes this product so good for me is even if you don't pull a $2,000 card out of a box, you're going to pull so many cards that you're happy with that you just want to keep if you're into this kind of stuff, which
This
I
is
am.
a set collector set.
100%. You know, I collect Marvel cards. I collect slab comics. This is right up my alley. You know, PMGs aren't even necessarily the biggest chase. The best card I've pulled from a value standpoint was the Z-Force Spectacular Rave. Out of 25, it's like a $2,000 card. That gives you a lot more opportunity to recoup your cost out of a break or out of a box when there's so many different ways to make some of that money back through gold parallels that aren't even numbered, through comic cuts, through shadow boxes. That's a really thoughtful set of inserts. The art is near perfect to me. The checklist is well done. I have no complaints about it, really.
You got sketch cards that are one of ones. They're always unique. You get the flair of the artist, so those have a nice variety. And the thing I like about this is, like you said, you're not just chasing one or two big hits. You can get a whole bunch of different things that aggregate to value to you know, kind of getting your money back per box. You might not always, it's like any other sealed wax product, but it's a fun product. If you're into the product, you're gonna enjoy opening it. And like you said, you're gonna feel like you got something no matter what out of it. And obviously Upper Deck has kind of an advantage here to have those Fleer rights from the 90s. It's like a retro product to have some of those insert designs that people love.
And where it gets interesting to me is, when this was supposed to come out, was right around when Spider-Man, you know, the most recent
It was like
Spider-Man
a year ago or something?
Yeah, and if we remember, there was PMGs hitting record sales at that time.
Yeah.
And now if you look, I believe one of the red Spider-Man PMGs sold for, I think, maybe $2,000. Yeah. And boxes are right now going for like $600. Yeah. Not great, Bob.
Completely sold out on Midwest cards, by
for
the way.
somebody, you know, that's the ultimate chase. And like, you know, yeah, you're getting your ROI, but not by that much. And I do worry from the retail standpoint, just because there's no numbered stuff in there, and there are, I think, gold FXs and maybe one other variation, but
yellow and black.
You know, the print run does make me worry as somebody who does have 2013 and 2015 and 2017 Spider-Man, you know, PMGs. I feel good about those as cards and investments right now, just based on the amount that's printed. I believe the high and low series now you have a character can now have 2 PMGs. So I think there are some concerns that I have in terms of how this is going to look going forward and where the prices have been trending since it's gone out.
Well, it's a thoughtful product.
Yes.
The base design is beautiful.
Yes.
They've done a really good job with it. I like that they have the one retail offering with more difficult pack odds. You can hit some of the inserts. It's like 10 times harder to hit a Palladium, but you can. All of that stuff to me is exactly what we've talked about in past episodes for what we want a product to be. So very encouraging. Fanatics, take note of what Upper Deck's doing there, and we really like that. That's it, guys. Awesome episode. I've really enjoyed sitting in this chair. I'm the captain now, so thanks for participating. Leave us your mailbag questions for next week down in the comments. We love reading those, and we'll pick a few of them and answer them next week. That does it for now. Thanks to our sponsors, and until next time, happy investing.